And in this guide we're going to be covering the crop tool, one of the most important tools you'll use in Photoshop. With it you can crop and straighten images to create focus in photos or strengthen the composition. The crop tool can be accessed from the tools window on the left or by hitting C on your keyboard. As you can see, the cropping box appears right away around the perimeter of the image. You can immediately click anywhere on the image to drag and drop your crop area, or you can go from the sides or the corners. And you'll notice as soon as you start cropping that the grid overlay will show, and the default option is rule of thirds. If you don't like that option, we can change it later. Hitting escape will reset the crop box. Up top in the options toolbar you'll see all of the adjustments you can make to the crop tool. One of the most important is delete cropped pixels. If you have this option checked, anytime that you make a crop, those sides are gone forever, unless you hit undo or change it back into history. But you can only go so far back into history. With this option unchecked, no matter what you do or how you crop it, the original image will always still be there, so you can expand past the original crop point. Now that we know the full image is safe, let's play around. Once you've found the perfect crop zone, to apply it you can hit the check mark up top, or you can just hit enter. You can also right click and hit crop, or you can go up to the image menu and hit crop. But enter or the check mark is the fastest ways. If you don't like the crop, you can undo it, or you can simply click on the image again if you have the delete crop pixels turned off, and then you can adjust accordingly. Plus, if you go back to using the default move tool, you can adjust the image inside of the crop boundaries without resizing the actual crop. If the image is a little bit crooked, you can fine tune it by using the straighten tool up top. Once you drag and drop, it'll automatically adjust. To apply it, just hit enter. You can also access the straighten tool by holding the command button down and clicking. If you know what size you want to crop to, you can set that size in the size and proportions area up top. To use a ratio, just select ratio and input your numbers. You can also choose from presets over here, 5x7, 16x9, and then just start cropping. If you accidentally swap the numbers around, you can easily hit the swap button up here, or you can drag and drop a corner. You can also change the actual size and resolution to exact dimensions and pixel ratios if you want, using the W times H times resolution. You can either choose a preset or create your own. To use inches, the default, just type in a number, 24 by 7. And this image is currently 240 pixels per inch, so let's change it to 72. If you want to use pixels instead of inches, you need to actually type that in. Obviously, we don't want 24 by 7 pixels. If you're not using predefined ratios or sizes and you found the perfect ratio that you like, you can right click and say use crop box aspect ratio, and then whatever change you make will keep that ratio for you. You can always return it back by resetting the crop box. If you do find a ratio and you don't want to do that, you can also hold the shift key while you're dragging a corner, and that will keep the ratio the same. To go back to the original image's ratio, just right click and select that option. You can also use other keyboard tricks like holding down the Option or Alt key while dragging a corner. This will change all sides of the box at the same time. You can also do the same thing with the sides, and it will just change the sides, or the same thing with the tops. Also, you can hold down the Shift key and click anywhere on the image to start a new crop zone. If you keep holding down Shift, it'll give you the default 1:1 ratio. If you have a ratio set, it will use that instead. Now, if you hit Shift and click and then let go of Shift, you can select whatever you want. Now, depending on what you're working on, the rule of thirds overlay may not be the best for you. You can change that up in the overlays box. There's the regular grid, diagonal, triangle, golden ratio, golden spiral. You can also just press O on the keyboard to cycle through these options. You can also choose to never show the overlay or always show it, auto show it. The last big thing to talk about is the crop settings menu. If you want to use classic mode to get that old Photoshop feel, you can use that. I don't recommend that because the new one is awesome. You can choose to show the cropped area or not. I would recommend making sure that's checked. That way if you ever want to resize the image from the original, you can see it. You can always auto center preview, and you can enable the crop shield. If you don't like the grayed out color, you can always change that to something else. I like the grayed out to match, so let's match the canvas. You can also adjust the opacity of that. And that's it for the crop tool. There's actually a lot more you can do with it, especially if you have multiple layers. But for now, this should give you a good overview of the basics.